At Luton Airport side by side with his new captain. Alan Shearer adding England skipper to his CV, which already includes top Euro 96 scorer and world's most expensive player.
Now I've been given the chance, I'll give it my best shot, but delighted and looking forward to captaining my country.
He's got total respect from the players, everyone in football, you guys, even fans, even in Europe now. You know, he's got the total respect, and I feel that he's going to do a great job. We're hoping that we can develop the job for Alan. It's only fair to him. You know, it's new to him. It's a new job for him, and he needs to get his teeth into it, and he'll need a bit of time. If it needed to be changes in the long term, then so be it. But I've got 100% feeling that won't be the case.
I won't change. I'll be exactly as I have done in the past. If people need to talk to me and they can, then I'll relate between the players and the manager. If things need to be done on the pitch, then I'll do that. But it certainly won't change me on or off the pitch.
The latest blow to England's already injury-hit squad, the withdrawal of Teddy Sheringham, who misses the trip to Moldova because of a muscle strain. That's a loss to not only England, but Alan Shearer, his regular striking partner throughout Euro 96. The Republican Stadium in Moldova is a long way from Wembley Stadium, and not just in terms of distance. It's an open arena holding just over 20,000 people, and the pitch is suffering from overuse. Not only will it stage England's World Cup match, it'll also host tomorrow's Under-21 game. The last time an England squad set off from Luton Airport for a competitive match, it was a hopeless cause. Even a 7-1 win over San Marino couldn't save them from a World Cup exit. This time it's just the beginning of the journey to the finals, but with only one team from the group sure to qualify, a big win is still vital.
It may be a trip into uncharted territory, but when the England players arrived at their hotel after a 3-hour flight, they found they weren't alone. 2 fans from Preston had travelled overland to be here. Hundreds more will fly in tomorrow. The squad had their first chance to check the pitch at a training session this morning. The Republican Stadium has a surface which is just about adequate, but it may not be by kick-off tomorrow.
The only problem is the under-21s playing it this evening, and then we're due obviously to play on there at 6 o'clock tomorrow. So at the moment the weather's not too bad, but if the weather was bad, I don't know what we'd have done, because that would have made things, life very difficult for us.
The England coach has had plenty to think about during the build-up to the match. Teddy Sheringham was the latest player to withdraw because of injury. Paul Ince's fitness is still a concern. No danger of Gascoigne playing in goal, though.
It's been a test of my management skills, that's for sure, in my first one. But after all that, come 6 o'clock tomorrow, it's about getting 3 points. Whatever team we put out there, I'm sure they'll be well versed in what I'm looking for. There's a lot of things that I want to go into, but obviously I can't. That's going to take more time. To do too much work too soon could confuse people, and you end up coming unstuck possibly with a result. But we're in a positive mood.
In the ornate and impressive setting of the Friendship Hall, Glenn Hoddle's news conference looked more like a meeting of the United Nations, and the England coach certainly played the part of diplomat in complimenting the Moldovans on their hospitality. Welsh fans will remember that their side were here during the qualifying stages for Euro 96 and lost 3-2. But if England are looking for a rather more encouraging precedent, then that's provided by their old friends, the Germans. They came here and won 3-0. That's a realistic target for England, but Glenn Hoddle says the margin of victory is unimportant. He just wants to get the World Cup campaign off to a winning start.
It's coming up to 6 o'clock Moldovan time, the hour of initiation for England's new head coach. For a very young country, Moldova celebrated 5 years of independence last Tuesday. It is a very young team for their first participation in the World Cup. Average age 22, very much the side that Messrs Hoddle and Gorman checked out against Turkey a couple of weeks ago, based primarily on players from the two main clubs here, Tiligul and Zimbru, though the sweeper Nani and Kleschenko have just switched to play in the second division in Holland.
And if the performance of the under-21s last night's anything to go by, this team will pass the ball about with good movement. I'm sure in Sekou number 2 and Testamitsano number 3 there'll be two man-for-man markers, possibly Shearer and Bambi. But players to look out for, one you mentioned, Kleschenko, Martin, Curtiano, undoubtedly a threat, and Mitarev.
Glenn Hoddle's attempts at continuity hampered by injuries to 9 of the Euro 96 squad. So there are these first caps for Manchester United's David Beckham and Andy Hinchcliffe of Everton. Gary Pallister is fit again after his summer on the sidelines to take over from Tony Adams. And Nick Barmby takes on the role performed so well in the recent past by Teddy Sheringham.
And I don't expect to see too many changes from the sides that were playing during Euro 96. Maybe some subtle changes, but it's got a good balance to it. Glenn Hoddle's first choice here. I like the thought of Hinchcliffe playing crosses into, and Gary Neville doing the same from the other side. Mention how small they were. We'll just watch for Nicky Bambi. I'm sure at times he'll just do what Teddy Sheringham did, and that's just drop off the front into little spaces.
The referee is Major Ilka Koho, and he will allow 3 substitutes from 7 named by both sides. That's the way the international football regulations bed down for the forthcoming World Cup. England pretty much down to the bare bones of their squad. The only player not involved with a shirt today, the third goalkeeper, David James. Well, some of the heat has gone out of a very pleasant day, but the sun's still shining brightly. I suppose those who played for England on the pitch in Beijing back in May will find some similarity with the surface for this match this evening. But it's the standards that England set under Terry Venables that could and should make World Cup qualification very tenable. And without a proper preparatory match, Glenn Hoddle, like every other Englishman, will be looking for a carryover from June, that euphoria of Euro 96. Passion and patriotism from the entire nation, fueling expectation for this new World Cup adventure, which will begin when the clock finally ticks round to the appointed moment. And Moldova in a new strip for the new campaign to start their very first game in the World Cup. This country that was previously part of the Soviet Union, it's sandwiched between Romania and the Ukraine. The locals speaking either Romanian or Russian. The ground certainly not full. The ground where almost 2 years ago Wales were embarrassed. And Moldova finished above the Welsh in that Euro 96 qualifying group. A reassuring sight of David Seaman in the England goal. The cost to the locals around £7 a ticket, very expensive in these parts, about the average weekly wage for a working man. So with the game being screened also live on the television here, you can understand some of the empty spaces in the stadium.
Well, signs are ready that both Bambi and Shearer are going to be marked very tightly and man for man. I just wonder if they're going to pay the same sort of attention to Paul Gascoigne.
Here's Belarus, who scored one of the goals. They were tremendous goals too against Wales in that 3-2 win. Left Neville Southall perplexed here a couple of years ago. And that's just a little warning that nothing is automatic in world football these days.
I think you have to, more than ever, earn the right to your victories in this type of football. I was saying to you before the game, how I always think when you play sides that even, I don't think, expect to win the match. At 0-0, there's always that fight and determination from them to keep you out.
This is Testimitsanu. It was an awkward header for Pallister, who's playing in the centre of England's middle three. With Southgate to one side and Pearce to the other. And England will hope to get Gascoigne involved as quickly as possible.
A little flash of the typical Paul Gascoigne, leaving 2, 3, 4 players in his wake. And I think you'll find that'll happen. Anytime it looks like he's free, the shirt will get tugged.
Shearer. Just a little nibble from behind by Gary Neville to give away a free kick. Neville protests his innocence. And he's being asked to raid down the right-hand side, having played for Terry Venables at times in the centre of a three-man defence. There's been plenty of pre-game talk about who Glenn Hoddle, what type of player he prefers in the wide positions. He is very much in the centre of things, as he has been in at least one match this season for Nottingham Forest. As Frank Clark tries to change the tactics at the City Ground. Well, it was a bold run forward by Yepurianu. Certainly the England under-21 team found their counterparts yesterday very adept at passing the ball neatly on this far from level surface, although England happy that there's a fair amount of grass on it. It's not the perfect top by any means, but it's just the type of problem away from home in the World Cup that you've just got to knuckle down and not let get you down.
Well, you just go and win the match. I think that's the thing that Glenn Hoddle has been stressing to his side before it. We're here to do a job, let's do it, and we can all have a nice journey home. Concentrate on the next one.
Which happens at the start of next month against Poland at Wembley, which we'll see, of course, live on Sky Sports. Here's Nani, the Dutch-based Moldovan sweeper. Two young forwards, 19 and 20, Mitarev and Popovic. There's a certain amount of awe in the Moldovan ranks when the England players arrive. Their team hotel's very close to each other. It's not exactly been requests for autographs, but there've been little visits across to have an excuse to just see what the likes of Alan Shearer are like in the flesh. Shearer, of course, the New England captain. It's somehow in keeping with the fairy story style of his career that he should be the 100th to have that honour in the national team's history. One or two other candidates as well would have been personally disappointed, but I'm sure of backing the new leader to the hilt. Nani, slow start in the Republican Stadium in Moldova in the sunshine. Testimitsanu. Nani, England happy to let him have the ball, and Beckham finally made something of a token challenge, but maybe it was enough to force a rather weak ball forward.
Well, I think England would be quite happy to allow Nani to have it where he did then and play long balls forward. I wouldn't suspect for a minute they'd try to push up and hold the line and look for offside.
It was a bit slovenly from Gascoigne. Yepurianu goes down. It was a dive, and England happy to get possession back. Some involvement for Andy Hinchcliffe. A very quick rise from being a late call up into the squad to be actually in the starting 11. England have had problems getting the right balance down the left-hand side. Shearer, they know, of course, the capabilities that he has, although there is something of a personal target for him. Alan Shearer scored 10 goals for England, all at Wembley. And the referee making a point to Yepurianu about the dive a minute or two earlier, saying none of that nonsense. Gascoigne is well forward. If Shearer can knock it down, Gascoigne's in the clear. Out comes the goalkeeper, and did enough without making a save to put Gascoigne off.
Well, I said to you beforehand, if it was early in the game, I'd be knocking balls into the box. And just the trouble they get into trying to defend that. 3 players attracted to Alan Shearer just went ball watching. None of them were good enough to stop Shearer's header. And had it not sat up so high for Paul Gascoigne, well, you feel sure he'd have given England the perfect start.
Romanenko, the goalkeeper, is pretty much an international rookie. It's his first competitive match for Moldova. He's played in the 3 friendlies earlier this year. But they do find it hard to get the money to play Moldova outside the demands of a competitive fixture list. Kurianu, this neat interpassing that England have got to be concerned about. It's not much of a shot in the end from Popovic, but they work the position.
And I think, though, the England squad were here last night to watch the under-21s, Mark, and they would have learned. I think they didn't defend particularly well, England's under-21 side. I'm sure the big team here tonight will defend a lot better than that.
That was a nervy miskick, maybe also a problem with the length of the grass for David Beckham. Hence his challenge. There are still problems here for England, and it was Mitarev.
Well, it's the first real scare. He should have done better, Mitarev. He did have Popovic on the far post, and anything across David Seaman would have given the England goalkeeper, well, certainly more of a problem than that really poor finish gave him. I don't think it's bad, though, to get a fright early in an important game. If you're a little bit slack, a little bit lazy where you start, it just kind of focuses you.
Barmby, who, of course, in his last start, scored twice in China. Could see some action in Euro 96 as a substitute. It's Cristiano, who is quick. Popovic in the centre. Others arriving, like Yapurianu, who lost the flight of the ball, it seemed, for a moment. Kaidamashchuk. Yapurianu. Kaidamashchuk, he's got a decent angle for a cross here, and it's a corner off Hinchcliffe.
Again, lovely give and go. Andy Hinchcliffe caught a little ball watching. An anxious little spell.
So England have to defend a corner, which the Moldovan captain Curtianu will take. Thinking about a short one with Yapurianu, which is what they come up with. First to make the header was Ince. And Palace to the danger, not away yet. Curtianu. Very difficult on this surface to wait a pass properly. But Beckham has got Barmby for company down the left. Gascoigne in the more central position. The pass just made him put on the brakes, and he's got a free kick, and he's taken it very quickly. And Barmby to try and tee up Shearer here. Kestimitsanu and then Nani between them. If you are perhaps a little disappointed with the quality of the pitches, let me tell you that it's quite unique to get live pitches out of this particular country, and everyone's doing their best to bring you some coverage of the game here on such an important late afternoon for England.
It's half a chance for Alan Shearer, though, Martin, a minute ago. Great quick thinking for Paul Gascoigne to slid the ball through to Nicky Barmby. Just his first touch took him a little bit wide. But you'll find early on, I'm sure, an awful lot of passes come up short, particularly ones that are struck along the ground.
Kestimitsanu giving that a bit of elevation. Put forward by Southgate. Curtianu quick to reach it and control it. Hinchcliffe coming back and just intent on getting it away from the edge of England's penalty area first and foremost. Sekou pressing in on Barmby, who peels away to the right. His marker's gone with him. And England look to the opposite side with Pearce. That's nicely wedged forward for Hinchcliffe. 3 in the centre for England. Barmby, Gascoigne, again anticipating the knockdown.
And again, it's a cross that causes the problems. Every time England have crossed the ball into the box, these opening few minutes, they've either won ahead or created a chance, and that was another chance. Beautiful ball in from Hinchcliffe, absolute peach. Nicky Barmby did what he had to do. I don't think he could have scored from there, just tried to find Gascoigne again. He's obviously been given licence to get forward as much as possible.
This stadium was a stopping off point for Germany on their journey to becoming champions of Europe. They won here 3-0, as did Bulgaria, who also qualified for those finals in June from Moldova's group. So maybe that's a benchmark for what England might hope to achieve here. Belarus. Flag is up against Gaidimaschuk. England arrived here on Friday night, a flight of about 3 hours, brought their own chef. They've been staying at the best hotel in town, and deprivation, if that's the word, has been kept to an absolute minimum. Gascoigne, but Popovic was just a little more determined, if you like. Belarus. Curtianu, nice movement off him from Gepurianu. Gary Neville tucking in and needing a couple of touches. Shearer showing well, but Pitch and Castimizanu enough to discomfort him. He's a very combative defender, Castimizanu, but he's also something of a potent weapon for Moldova. He scored in 3 of the last 4 internationals for them. And he's forward here. Gepurianu, Curtianu, Mitarev, and Seaman having to knock it past both Moldovan frontmen to get the ball away. It was very worrying.
Well, this has been a good 10 minutes for the home side. And he worked a chance himself. He just muscled Gareth Southgate out of it. He wasn't strong enough, Southgate, and he allowed Mitarev just to muscle him out. And again, very much like Paul Gascoigne's opening chance, the ball really didn't come down for him quick enough.
England's throw. Shearer picked out by Gary Neville, and England have a free kick in a promising position. Gascoigne very interested straight away. He's already
spot for choice, ball. Beckham, Gascoigne, Hinchcliffe, Pearce. Not bad.
Well, we've had almost 15 minutes here in Chisinau. Not without an alarm or two for England, but a couple of promising moments for Gascoigne from free play.
As you said, this is a very inexperienced goalkeeper. How important it is, if that's the case, that you hit the target and make him work.
So England have made up their minds. It is Gascoigne, and he couldn't make him work. Denis Romanenko, a young goalkeeper in a young team for this fledgling nation.
You know, I can't remember seeing too many international sides as young as this.
As I said at the start, Glenn Hoddle and John Gorman went to Turkey in the middle of August. Moldova were beaten 2-0 there, but the reports were that they were the better side for an hour against the nation, of course, that qualified for the finals of Euro 96. It finished 2-0 to Turkey in the end. England allowed to push on. There's no attempt to trap anybody offside here. Plenty of depth to the defending. Neville. Barmby. Gary Neville had gone in advance for a return pass that came. So right under the nose of the linesman, who certainly, or the referee's assistant, we should say, he pointed out that an infringement had taken place, and England with another opportunity to show the potential weakness in the air of Moldova. And this is Pearce, and instead of putting it across the face of the goal, and he had a real opportunity to do that.
It's another example, though, Martin, of how comfortable they've won a ball. They've won a cross. Stuart Pearce totally unmarked. Don't think this side are happy at all facing anything coming like that.
Remember, only the top team in the group are guaranteed a place in the World Cup finals in France in just under 2 years' time. The best in the 9 European groups, second place record will go through automatically, and the other 8 runners-up will be paired into 4 matches, home and away. So there are other routes, but England would love to take that automatic way. And of course the major obstacle is Italy, although we shouldn't rule out Poland. Partido, who's been on the ball a lot and has been impressive. He left Gascoigne. Gajdamasjuk. It's a bit tight in the end, and it didn't come off. But the sudden change of direction, a little bit of change of pace as well.
And the central midfield areas, the battle in there, the contest in there is being won by the Moldovans at the moment. Belus, Sepuriano, in particular Curtiano, are actually having the better of Vince, Gascoigne and Beckham. They've been on the ball more, they've used it better.
Pallister, who actually got through the plane journey well, with worries about his capacity to travel with that bad back that has hampered his international career in 1996. Pearce, who said after the finals, of course, in June, that he wouldn't play for England again. He was going to retire. Glenn Hoddle talked him out of that. Gascoigne. A push by Ince, but Belarus was able to ride that. Beckham trying to get in the way, which he did. An awkward hop for Pearce. Made the first touch difficult, and Moldova have a throw. Taken by Gajdamasjuk. This is Yepurianu. Curtianu is very mature for a 22-year-old in terms of his play. And that's the fellow we were talking about with a good goal record, Tisti Mezzanu.
Again, though, it was build-up and play to admire. Good passing, good movement. I honestly believe, I don't think the England players are enjoying this surface at all, Mark. I think they're having trouble picking a pace of pass, even picking a choice of pass at times.
And of course, by necessity, the preparation for a tournament at home meant little travelling under Terry Venables. Only those away internationals in his time in Norway and in China.
Oh, I thought he was a bit unlucky, Paul Ince. Certainly took the player, but I thought he won the ball first and foremost.
So a free kick to Moldova with 20 minutes gone. Sekou. Nani. To hit it long into a corner where Gareth Southgate's gone across to try and stop any sort of cross coming in. Hasn't been able to do that. Another difficult part of the pitch for Stuart Pearce. And he never looks quite as comfortable on his right side, does he?
That did arrive at a horrible height for him. Horribly spinning ball as well.
Curtiano. Well, the local followers here very pleased with what they're witnessing to this point.
Well, he's causing them a little... Sorry, Martin, that Tisti Mezzanu, who you mentioned earlier, he is causing them a few problems in the fact that he's... When they've got the ball, he's quite happy to leave Bambi and Shearer if he's marking them and go and join in. And Klitschenko, the number 11, who's normally plays on that left side, he tucks himself infield and in between Mitarev and Popovic, and it's really causing them one or two problems. So if Bambi or Shearer don't track Testament Sano down, you can get on the ball free for fun.
And a look of being a little ill at ease, reaching David Seaman as well. England quite pleased with the dimensions of this pitch. The width certainly broad enough not to feel that they were being hemmed in. There's by no means an intimidating atmosphere. It's a very small stadium in terms of capacity for crowd, and that's not reflected on the playing surface. And of course FIFA do have pretty strict rules now for World Cup ties in that respect. Belarus looking for Popovic. Again, more encouragement for Moldova.
He's almost threaded ball of the match through there.
It's not easy for David Beckham to bed himself into this, with England being troubled by the mobility of their opposite numbers in midfield. Ince, who's been given ostensibly a holding role. Now there's a bit of room for Beckham further forward. Gascoigne again had darted into the penalty area. Shearer keeps it alive for England. Pearce stooping in, but Mitarev, a lovely touch from Curtiano. Mitarev away from Beckham. And with back passes you've got to be very careful as well. Stuart Pearce, of course, played in England's last match under the World Cup umbrella, away to San Marino. And we all know what happened in the first moments of that game, with Messrs Pearce and Seaman involved. Gary Neville. And a goal for Bambi! Well, that will settle England down. Volleyed in.
Well, it's been threatening from across since the minute one. Look at that great ball, and Shearer makes the first run, and because of that he takes the defender away, and Bambi, well, it wasn't a simple tap in, he's on the volley, struck it in very confidently, Nicky Bambi.
So Bambi follows those 2 goals in China with another on his travels here, and this in a much more important setting. The first goal for England under Glenn Hoddle, the first of this World Cup campaign, and it's come from Middlesbrough's Nick Bambi. Curtiano. Outside. Plechenko, Andy, you mentioned down that left-hand side, it was in the Euro 96 qualifiers the lone striker for Moldova, very left-footed, and they've decided to use him in a different capacity in recent games. And he's got great attacking instincts, so England can't be resting on their laurels here.
No, they can't. They've needed that. That goal will settle them down. It should settle 1 or 2 nerves.
Lovely for Nick Bambi, who hasn't found the goals easy to come by from his club in this calendar year, but when he's been called upon by his country, he has answered the call. And here's Ince, who's got to it. Gascoigne looking to loop it in. 2-0.
Well, the referee could easily have given a free kick against Paul Ince for high foot. Normally that happens in the continent, but Paul Ince gets away with it. But once again, when you think Paul Ince is causing problems in the air, then the defence you're playing against must be suspect. And that's exactly what happened. Lovely ball, there you go. See the high foot there, and what a goal from Gascoigne. Took his time, picked his spot, delivered it perfectly.
England are now down to business. The cobwebs, if you like, brushed away. There was a significant look from the referee across to the linesman to make sure all was legitimate here.
Just there, man. See how his foot came way up, very high. You don't often get away with that abroad.
So first Bambi, then Gascoigne.
They should enjoy this now. I know it's Glenn's first game, but the players now 2 up early, well, early in the first half, but certainly in the first half. I think they'll just should and could go on and win this really comfortably and really set the stall.
Here's Gascoigne. And Shearer was not expecting it to be just rolled down that particular channel. Well, some of the early bluster might just disappear from Moldova now. Testimițanu. Certainly what England do today will be compared very much on October the 5th when Moldova are at home to Italy. Shearer. And, well, we've talked about some nervy England defending, but we shouldn't neglect the same sort of problems in the Moldovan ranks. And Seku stabbing that behind. Under no direct pressure, but just feeling the effects of the old 1-2 from England.
I think it's right. You look at games, sometimes it's nice to pass it about, but today you'd be saying put that ball in the box, give it some height and let the boys go and attack it, because everyone is causing problems.
England haven't exactly got a Duncan Ferguson, no. But Andy Hinchcliffe has had a week to learn about the right areas to put the ball into for Alan Shearer, and also Gary Pallister, who's right in underneath the crossbar. It was just too high for Pallister, held well in the circumstances by Romanenko. And here's Mitarev. Popovic. Well, Mitarev with Pallister caught forward, and the cover not perhaps best placed. And the man with a sense of responsibility then was Nick Barmby.
It was a decent break from Moldova. Good quick thinking from the goalkeeper. Plenty of white shirts back there, plenty.
Curtianu. Gascoigne. Beckham sprinting to the right-hand side. And the work off the ball, pulling the defenders, leaving an avenue for Gascoigne to exploit himself. Barmby. Beckham. Another header won by yet another different player in that Moldovan penalty area.
Well, maybe Glenn knew that, that's why he didn't think he'd picking Les Ferdinand after him up.
Well, of course, the other factor is the Shearer-Ferdinand partnership, which is still in its formative stage at St James's Park. And I think in checking, they played just over an hour together for England, those two against Portugal at the back end of last year. I think now Les Ferdinand would like a chance to get into this game for one reason or another. Beckham. Gary Neville being yelled on from the bench. We could hear that from the far side because the atmosphere now amongst the local population is somewhat subdued.
I know he's quick, but he can't give players like Kleschenko 5-yard start and expect to run past them too often.
Gaidamaschuk. Good pressure by Shearer. Curtianu. Testimițanu on the march forward again. Curtianu behind him. Nicely done for Testimițanu, and it's the extra man that's just making it a little difficult for England defenders to know exactly who they should be picking up. Shearer drawing two across.
He does that so well, Alan Shearer. I think it must be brilliant if you're a midfield player, a defender, and you're under a bit of pressure. He makes so many long runs, giving you an option to play it to him.
Well, no one wants a short throw here. England know what's been profitable for them. In the end, Beckham comes sort of half and half, on the same wavelength as his Manchester United colleague. Gary Neville trying to whip it in, but that's too close to the goalkeeper this time.
Too close to the goalkeeper, but 4 white shirts in there. And I think that's encouraging to see 4 attacking players want to get into the box and get on the end of anything. A better cross, and well, you fancy one of them to be there.
Nani. Here's Sekou with Kaida Mastrick outside him, but Sekou trying to put it into an area that, well, it got beyond the bigger England defenders, Pallister and Southgate, and it needed Gary Neville coming back to do the necessary job there beyond the far post.
That's a good header. It's a good defensive header. Good defending from Gary Neville. Decent ball in.
Well, there's less zest from Moldova about getting across to take the corner. Belarus, who put a terrific shot from the edge of the penalty area past Neville Southall in that match against Wales, wasn't given the opportunity to do the same then. This is Sekou, another of the scorers in that match.
I mean, you just imagine it's going to take something like that now. Unless England go to sleep at the back, they're a little bit sloppy. Unless they strike one from 20-30 yards into the top corner, you just wonder where there's a goal going to come from against England, which is very positive for them.
Jon Karas, rather colourfully, the Moldovan coach, was saying that his team are really like 13-year-old boys. They're so naive about playing the game at this level, but they've got wonderful enthusiasm. They'll do everything they're told. They just want to get out there and play. And of course, you do get extremes, and having shown us some neat play, their weaknesses all too apparent at the back, and England have taken advantage of that. And with the game still, with 12 minutes to go to half-time, you do believe that there will be further pickings for England to collect.
Well, there's no doubt they'll create chances. One thing we can't guarantee is whether they'll take them.
Ince and Gascoigne, of course, have had injury problems in the weeks leading up to this fixture. Oh, there was Gareth Southgate trying to get in on the act there as the ball ricocheted across the penalty area. I wonder why.
Such is the confidence. I think you do get games, and you talked about it beforehand, that I don't think anyone believed, even Moldova themselves, that they could win this match. And now that England are 2-0 up, I think all the England players feel pretty confident about the outcome of this game. But how important goals scored might just be in the final reckoning. And I think that's why it's important that the pace of this game is kept up for England.
There could be another one here. Gascoigne, flag was up against Shearer. The referee actually didn't see it. The linesman still pointing skywards. And it's an England free kick, and the referee is still concentrating on that. Now, finally, Pleschenko has drawn his attention to it. And it will be an offside decision in Moldova's favour.
Well, just to the lines where he kept that flag up a long time. Alan Shearer had just strayed just a fraction offside.
Belarus. It's tidily away by Pallister to Ince, on to Beckham. Suddenly the pitch seems less of a problem to England. Everyone's much more relaxed on the ball. Ince. He doesn't like being restricted to a holding role. Gascoigne. Now Andy Hinchcliffe. Gary Neville coming in. And alongside him was Pleschenko, who did just enough to put him off at the crucial moment.
That's just about it, just enough. Again, England looked threatening. I think two things have happened. Obviously, the goals have settled England and given them more confidence. And I did say it would take some time to get used to this length of this grass on this pitch.
Pallister. Moldova have pulled everyone back. Pallister has got them lining up to his right. Southgate. Well, it's not quite coming off that time, but you can't blame anyone for knocking the ball in, even from that angle, which you would say against good quality defenders was probably not sophisticated enough at this World Cup level. But today, it could be the direct path to improving the goals in the bank, which England have deposited 2. He just joined us through Nick Barmby, and then shortly afterwards from Paul Gascoigne. Midway through the half, after some less than confident moments in the first 15 minutes or so. Southgate. Saw a space to go on through himself, and the ball was drilled against him, and it's flown behind for a goal kick. Gareth Southgate very grateful for the thousands, literally thousands of letters of support he's had from sympathetic fans commiserating with his part in the end of Euro 96 for England at the semi-final stage. Officially, in the records, a defeat by a penalty shootout doesn't go down as a defeat. So if you take that into account, England haven't been beaten since that loss to Brazil at Wembley back in summer '95. Captained by Gada Masčuk. Now Popovic. Back for Gada Masčuk. Lupuriani trying to take on Ince, who had to make sure he connected with the ball inside his own penalty area. Gascoigne buying himself a moment or two with the time, then the telling touch that wasn't coming off at 0-0, but suddenly now the sureness has returned. Beckham, who in some ways has similarities to the young Glenn Hoddle, the player, when he made his England debut. Just a little older, I think, than David Beckham is today. But the range of their passing is certainly a similarity. The great potential that they have to, certainly Beckham has now, to serve his country for many years to come.
And he's grown as the half's gone on, David Beckham.
Ince. Around 500 England fans here. Probably now just basking in the sunshine and enjoying the weather. And enjoying the position that the national team finds itself in. With 6 minutes or so to go to half-time. Ince. It's a little different from the atmosphere of tens of thousands at Wembley singing "Football's Coming Home," but the sense of purpose is just as important, and here's Beckham emphasising that. And Shearer nearly getting one for himself. I think it would have passed possibly just outside the post, might have struck the outside of the post, but Romanenko was taking no chances.
No, he was just backing away from the cross. You see it here. Had he been attacking it, just has to take a step back. Gets a good downward header. Might well have just been sneaking wide.
They're onside here. Shearer and Barmby. Shearer who takes it on.
Oh, that's a penalty, surely.
It's not in the mind of the referee from Finland.
Well, if he'd been sitting where I am, he'd be pointing to the spot right now, I tell you. Trust me, Alan Shearer does not go to ground when he only has a goalkeeper to beat.
Nor does he show so much demonstratively as he did then when the decision went against him. And Shearer still, he's looking at the linesman on the far side for a bit of help, a strong-minded referee's assistant who kept his flag up conspicuously a few minutes ago against Shearer, funnily enough. There's no support then. But again, Moldova made a mess of the defending to allow Shearer the free run. It was almost the right of the senior player then, because Nick Barmby could have chased on down the same sort of path as well. Gascoigne. That is the fall that produces a blast from the referee.
Well, it's a bit like men against boys at the moment. Gascoigne's now beginning to perform. As I said, Beckham's grown, and Ince is Paul Ince. It's as simple as that in that area.
Well, England came here talking about winning as the prime requisite, and you could understand that, particularly a long way away from home. Not so much in miles, really, as in terms of the difference in culture, difference in standards of living. But now the question is, as half-time approaches, by how many are England going to win? This is Barmby. And it's Shearer who should have added a third.
I'll have to say in his defence that it did set up. But still, nonetheless, the most expensive player in the world will feel that he should have opened his account, would you say, away from Wembley in an England shirt. It's a great ball. Great run and a great ball from Barmby. Can't fault either of that.
And for a player who thought he should have been placing the ball on the penalty spot, the ball was cut back virtually into that position. And the moving ball, in the end, a problem for Alan Shearer. Bang in front of goal.
They're almost creating chances at will now, England. Popovic.
Well, his confidence is still up. He's prepared to try and do the difficult thing and make it an aggravation for England defensively. Andy, how similar to this is England under Glenn Hoddle to England under Terry Venables?
Well, I would actually say it's hard to spot many differences. I think probably Barmby's played up as a striker more than maybe Teddy Sheringham did with Shearer. The two of them have certainly taken a high starting point up the pitch. That may be a subtle difference. The rest of it's pretty similar.
And here's Pearce. If there was any sort of bend on that in towards that far post, that might as well been on target, but it didn't get too far. England now have a free kick because Pearce wasn't resting on his laurels, having let fly. He was prepared to chase the ball as it bounced away and was brought down. And Pallister has made his way up again. And you feel rather reluctantly Gareth Southgate has stayed back. Beckham making a late run from deep. It doesn't go deep at all. And Gascoigne. There's a grimace. Really tells you what he thought about that, and he's just apologising to one or two of his teammates. Testimitsanu scrapping it away. Belaus, Purianu, who's had a useful first half. This is Pashenko, one of the two Dutch-based players on this Moldovan side. Purianu, Kurtianu, Pashenko, Belaus. Kurtianu trying the flick, rather like Paul Ince did to help set up England's second goal. Here's the self-same Ince.
I think you'll only really find the real similarities, if any, Martin, is when Glenn has got the same squad of players to pick from, his strongest squad. Players like McManaman and Anderton are back fit. Then we'll see, does he pick them in the same type of system that Terry did? I tend to think Glenn will try to do things his own way, not change anything too much. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, springs to mind. And England's performances during Euro 96 tended to suggest they got stronger as the tournament went on. There's not an awful lot wrong. And Glenn, it would be, I think, and he knows it would be foolish to make major changes.
Well, he may be young at 38 compared to his predecessors, but he certainly knows his own mind, Glenn Hoddle. I think he would probably be the first to point out the hiccups of the opening 15 minutes or so. But casting that aside now, as England are in the position to do as they go in at half-time, it got much better once the first goal went in and settled everyone down. It came from Nick Barmby, very important. Paul Gascoigne contributed the second, and from then on it's been a question of how many are England going to get here. At half-time in Kishinev, it's Moldova 0, England 2. So after a sticky start, England have had some fun in the sun, and they'll want to carry on at the start of the second half in the same vein that they finished the first. And here's Ince. So keep an eye on Gascoigne. I'm sure you invariably do anyway. Just thinking, after a certain incident here yesterday, it was very generous of Paul Ince to set up a goal for Gascoigne here. Here's Kurtianu. seem to be standing still after a terrific promise as a youth player at Manchester City. Got in the first team very young and then went to Everton. It didn't happen straight away, but he's certainly been involved under Joe Royle. Shearer. He's been carrying Neville to gallop, but as the ball was played, Shearer was spread eagle on the turf, and England had a free kick. Stuart Pearce is slightly to his side of centre. Gascoigne actually came out at half-time just to keep that problem Achilles tendon that he's got loose. Didn't want to be sedentary in the dressing room for too long. He'll never stay still for too long anyway. He and Ince are having a debate here. Goes to Ince, back to Gascoigne, up comes Pearce, and that's quite a long way off target, and England claim because of a deflection, and the referee sees their point of view. It's a corner.
Well, he was lucky in a way as well, because that was a big red X on it, that ball, as it was delivered to Stuart Pearce. One of those where the follow through and the tackle almost meet. Boot came off, but no other damage.
I just feel that for England, concentration is going to be very important here to maximise their advantage. 2 goals to the good. Corner a couple of minutes into the second half. To be taken by Hinchcliffe. And the goalkeeper, who was taking up not perhaps the best sort of position, suddenly found the ball dropping where he could go and claim it.
One thing they have to guard about is getting too casual and taking one pass too many. I think they all realise the game's won now. I think Glenn would be anxious at half-time to say to the players, you know, keep the tempo of the game up, keep creating chances, let's try and score as many goals as possible without being silly.
Well, Barmby almost able to get onto a stray ball across the back from Moldova. Siku responsible. Remember, 3 substitutes permitted from the 7 selected. England have got Matt Le Tissier on the bench, whose international career has been revived by the selection for this squad by Glenn Hoddle, who of course, as was well documented, did try to attract him to Chelsea when Glenn was the manager at Stamford Bridge. Shearer, Glenn Hoddle's captain. One-on-one really, Nani is the defender and he did well. He didn't let Shearer or the ball get past him. Koshenko. There was a flag up for offside then. It didn't look as though Alan Shearer was the player who was too far forward. It mattered little. Barmby. Gascoigne on a chase, and whether he gave up there because he's feeling his Achilles or whether it was because the ball was not reachable. This is Nani. Moldova, who feel that they're a Latin nation in this part of Eastern Europe and like to play what they call the Latin style of short passing. Certainly, there were little pockets of the early part of this particular story where that short passing was very prominent, and England was straining a bit to deal with it. It's out of play, despite Shearer's leap, which takes out the goalkeeper as well. The ball had gone behind.
Interesting decision for Glenn if Paul Gascoigne is suffering with with an Achilles. I know they won't take a chance on him if he begins to feel it at all. Just who would replace him? Would it be Le Tissier? Would it be Batty? That would be an interesting one. Certainly perfect game for Matt Le Tissier, you feel.
Coriano. Coriano. There's a bit of sting in the shot. It's always flying too high.
Nice, neat and tidy. Once again, it's from long range. I think that it's going to be. It would need to be something special to beat that goalkeeper from that sort of range. Good movement again, typified early in the first half. And this time they put a finishing product on it.
Yeah, Coriano playing only his 3rd international, but he's done as well as anyone for Moldova here. One thing you knew with Terry Venables, and something we've pointed out many times over the last couple of years, he's developed a pecking order with his players. And to follow up your point, Andy, about who might replace who, you had a good idea. There was a lot of consistency in that. Of course, Glenn Hoddle still coming to terms with who he wants and why he wants them and where their best position is. Nothing so clear-cut. Cristiano. Back to him again from Cristiano. Knocked away by Southgate. It's not a bad ball, actually, because Shearer's been able to run off his marker. He's got Gascoigne galloping up the left. Barmby through the centre. Beckham's waiting on the edge. Gascoigne can tee him up. David Beckham.
Well, he'd have fancied that, wouldn't he? Young man, very confident in his ability to strike from that sort of range. It sat up beautifully for him. Was able to take it on the volley. But couldn't really control the shot the way he would have liked.
Well, all really coming from just a clearance of no necessary direction from Gareth Southgate. Just get it away from the goal, and suddenly Shearer was able to spark an attack with Gascoigne's help. To illustrate again the shortcomings of Moldova defensively. There was a raised foot. This is the Beckham effort, but the play stopped after that for a foot raised by Shearer. Just referring back to Paul Ince on the goal, Andy.
Yeah, and it was certainly wasn't half as high as Paul Ince's was. Yeah, and you're lucky in this game.
Popovic. Fifth in the group of England players able to deal with that. Ince. Again trying to lift it over Cristiano, but although he's a small young man who was very determined not to be beaten there, just as determined as Ince coming back, but the referee didn't like the challenge. Moldova has got a free kick in the corner of England's penalty area.
That's another one of those 50-50 decisions involving Paul Ince. Looked like he made a good tackle, but the referee didn't see it that way. You'd have to fancy that they're going to pull the trigger here and have a shot. I can't for the life of me think that they believe if they just knock it into the air, if England are marking up properly, they can beat the likes of Southgate, Palliser.
Well, the number 2, Sekou, loves to shoot, whatever the angle. Here he goes. It was close. It was not enough to turn the hair on David Seaman's head, but he found some space to exploit alongside that England wall, and it's encouraged the crowd. I think that's important for Moldova at this stage. They've been deflated by England's sudden switch from being nervous to being totally supreme. Midway through the first half, the 2 goals in quick succession from Barmby and from Gascoigne. Belarus. This is Cristiano. Those two very much on the same wavelength. Cristiano having a go with his right-footed swinger. Was something of a swing, but he was in the act of shooting. It's another free kick. This one, well, dead centre.
Not so sure David Beckham made a challenge there. He just kind of caught his leg as he went to pull the trigger for the shot, Cristiano. This will worry the goalkeeper a little bit more.
And it'll be Sekou again. Nani is there doing some pointing. David Seaman has asked for a 4-man wall, and Moldova have put a couple of players on the end, try and create a gap. But Sekou is the man they trust in these situations. Well blocked. And from Belarus, who I think is about to be replaced. Certainly Moldova have got a substitute waiting to come on. Sekou back defending. They pushed Kleshchenko into that striking role that he had in the Euro 96 qualifiers, a bit more when they have had possession in the second half. Coriano picked out again, neatly from the back by Nani. That's a bit risky from Testi Mitsanu. Barmby. That's a good challenge by Shearer. Gascoigne. Beckham to pick it off and get England going forward again. Ince. No one really making a great run for him on that side of the pitch. Eventually, Hinchcliffe, who wanted it initially to feet, pushed on further forward. Beckham. And Kleschenko got back where we expected to see him and prevented Gary Neville making any progress. Trying to effect the substitution, Moldova, and they'll have to wait a little longer. Pallister. Plenty of time here for Pearce. Pallister, who came into the England setup towards the end of the campaign that ended in failure for the finals in '94. Remember, he was brought in Norway to mark Jostein Flo. And a tactical switch in Graham Taylor's time that just didn't have enough preparation for it to really work during the game. Maybe you and I were there that particular evening. England a little more efficient in less testing circumstances, it must be said, today. So it is Belarus who's going off, and the number 17 to replace him, Oleg Shishkin. Another of the youngsters, he's only 20. So he comes on at a Stuart Pearce free kick. The goalkeeper's come a very long way to make that his, and he's done it very well. Romanenko, who in the match in Turkey was penalised a couple of times for taking too many steps. Hasn't really fallen into that trap tonight. Southgate hoping it will run, but Kleschenko had other ideas. Coriano hits Pallister. Here's Mitarev, mown down by Pearce. Could be a booking. Yeah, will be.
Well, just a mistake, an error of judgment from Gareth Southgate. Opted to try and let it run out of play. It's always dangerous, it's always risky. You mentioned the enthusiasm of this young side, and they didn't give it up. Coriano struck the ball really well. Good block by Pallister, excellent block. But that's an easy decision for the referee. Free kick, edge of box.
So, in a match that England are winning comfortably, Stuart Pearce picks up a caution which might hurt the campaign if he's going to stay in the setup after his second coming, if you like, into the international scene. So have they got any variation here? Because Sekou has paced out a run again. Nani's just adjusted the position of the ball to try and maybe catch out the England wall. And there is Nani who takes it. Well, they're not making anything of the free kicks, but Glenn Hoddle won't be pleased that England are conceding them close to the penalty area on a regular basis at the moment.
I think England are playing well within themselves, man. I think there is a danger, and there always is when you play at this sort of level and you're winning a game comfortably at half-time, that you just take your foot off the gas a little. And I think that's all that England have done. But as I said, I think that their manager would have tried to emphasise the importance of scoring as many as possible. We keep talking about how it happens less and less at this level. You can get 4, 5, 6 goals. I think 2-0 up at half-time gave them a great platform to maybe push on and score maybe 2 or 3 more. But I can't remember too many good chances that they've created second half so far.
Well, I suppose David Beckham from the edge of the area would be the pick.
So Romanenko virtually untested second half.
Here's Southgate. Just making him stretch, but it's dropped well for Gary Neville. Shearer coming in. Sekou's got problems with the bounce, and Alan Shearer has put England 3-0 in front to celebrate his first match as captain of his country, to score his first international goal in the senior side away from Wembley. And it's just got England back on track in the second half.
That's exactly what we've been playing with in this side. Suddenly, they're up the tempo, Neville gets himself forward. Sekou can't deal with it, the knock into Alan Shearer. And that's a lovely little finish. Hits it too much and he clears the bar, but he just dinks it over the goalkeeper quite confidently.
So Gascoigne's had a word with those on the England bench, and Moldova make a second change, taking off Mitarev and bringing on the number 16 Radu Rebeja. And Shearer capitalising on, again, you have to say, defending not really worthy of a World Cup situation. So it's Moldova 0, England 3, with just over 16 minutes gone in the second half. Alistair. And something of an assist there for Gary Neville. Well, Shearer's landed awkwardly. Of course, there's a full round of midweek Premiership games to come for these players. Unusual in recent times for England to be playing an international match at the weekend. That will happen in November when Glenn Hoddle takes the players to Georgia. Meanwhile, Moldova have a corner. Rebeja has just come on. Kurianu. Sekou.
They just won't toss it in there, will they? Trying to thread it through.
Well, it's produced a free kick here. Obstruction by Southgate. And Kurianu. Nani. This is Shishkin. Kurtianu, who just occasionally has given a gleam of hope to Moldova. Certainly wants the ball, which is a great quality. Not just at this level, but particularly in this situation when the team is 3 goals behind. Mitsano with similar optimism, although not quite the same skills as Kurtianu. Different qualities, a real battler. Mitsano, who was Moldova's Player of the Year last year. Shishkin. Here's Kurtianu again. Kurianu and Alistair was grasping the shirt, but not to the extent that the referee thought he was responsible for Kleschenko going down, and Kleschenko's been booked for trying to deceive the referee.
I think he's a little unlucky. Again, you and I had a perfect view of that. And Gary Pallister was certainly all over Kleschenko. Had his hand on his shirt, was really tugging away at it, very similar to the way Alan Shearer was brought down first half. Not for the first time the referee doesn't see it the way of you and I.
Barmby able to turn and look to see what's on in the centre, and England have plenty of players forward. But Gascoigne obviously decided it wasn't quite tailored for his needs. A booking for Ince, it is. Now this is a problem that Paul Ince does give England managers, his desire to win the ball. You think he was suspended from that Norway game we were talking about earlier, which was an important match away from home, and he has a black mark against his name in a disciplinary sense here. join Stuart Pearce on the list of England players cautioned in the opening World Cup qualifier. Kesti Mitsanu. That's not a bad try.
That's a great effort. And David Seaman just didn't bother with it at all, but nonetheless it was so well struck and not that far away either.
That's the part of the ground where the England fans are. Some of them have had some amazing journeys to get here. Others flew in with the travel club, the official travel club, on a day trip. And the team, and indeed the media contingent with them, will be flying back to England shortly after the game is finished. A little bit on the short side for Gary Neville. Good connection by Seaman. It's been a good day, Andy, for football lovers up in the northeast when you think of the scorers. Barmby and Shearer and, of course, Gascoigne, with very much roots in that part of the world. Alistair, central prop of Glenn Hoddle's defensive system. Southgate. Shearer chasing with customary gusto and forcing an error. In fact, Barmby was beaten by another divot on the pitch. Ince got a toe to it. Cotianu. Pearce is well placed. When you think Glenn Hoddle denied the services of Tony Adams, David Platt, Darren Anderton, Steve McManaman, Robbie Fowler, Steve Howie and Jamie Redknapp, and Phil Neville from the Euro 96 squad, and we've mentioned Teddy Sheringham, of course. We were wondering, as one or two other players weren't taking part in training this week, whether even more reinforcements would have to be called for. Paul Ince didn't take a full part in yesterday's session on this ground, but he's still out there on the ball now. Alistair, who's been in Croc's corner over the past few months.
Yeah, I think taking all that into consideration, Glenn will consider this a very, very good day's work. We've learnt quite a bit about his players. He'll be happier. First day, wouldn't have wanted to start with a defeat or a disappointment, which I think a draw would have been. And his team, well, they're doing everything they could have asked for in the opening World Cup qualifying match, and that's winning it comfortably.
Foul by Shishkin on Ince. He's lost the boot. Just another factor to go back to the previous World Cup campaign, how little Alan Shearer was able to take part in it. It was very hard luck for Graham Taylor. He played in 3 matches of the 10, and one of which in Holland, and that night in Rotterdam he was hardly in full working order, had to play. So Glenn Hoddle will hope for a full turnout over the next 13 months or so from the man he's named as captain, and certainly from what he was saying when he made that announcement, the captain to get a good run at the job, not just a short-term appointment. And if that had got past to Ince, Popovic was onside. Shishkin. Now Popovic. He mustn't go to sleep here. As it moves towards dusk. Very much brighter evening than it was last night when the under-21s finished in near darkness. No sign of the floodlights being put on. Coming towards 7:30 local time. It's been a beautiful day weather-wise, and some of that has certainly rubbed off on the way this World Cup tie has worked out for England. 20 minutes to go. Still time for the position to be improved further. As we make a mention about the floodlights, it looks as though the fourth official is talking to the representatives of the Moldovan Federation on the far side, maybe with that in mind, to get the lights on for the last few minutes. Certainly the lights on the electronic scoreboard here, that's what they were saying cricket, isn't it, when the light meters come out, are getting brighter. That's a lovely ball to give Gascoigne a chance. He perhaps lost the best moment for it with the first touch. Back from Hinchcliffe, Ince for the acrobatics!
Yeah, that would have just topped off the night for him. Once again, the marking's absolutely dreadful. Anything that comes across goal. And Paul Gascoigne at times is almost playing like a front man. A really good effort. The way he controls it. Sets it up beautifully. Knows exactly what he wants to do here. I think the goalkeeper's beaten if that's a yard to the left.
Well, this young Moldovan team will have learnt so much from this experience. But from England's point of view, that's by the by. Shearer. Partido. Seen him not taking any chances. He could have actually let that run through, but maybe he saw a pass on for Shearer. The ball forward, which would be described in most international matches as distinctly hopeful, has looked at times devastating here. Devastating is the football term I'm using. Here's the throw from Gary Neville. There's Gascoigne chasing onto the long throw. In goes Ince. Gascoigne is there again. He's suddenly found an extra bit of puff, perhaps. Kleschenko is used to going it alone. The way they played him in the European qualifiers, he's got to chase on from Popovic's pass. Will the grass hold it up for him? It doesn't quite. It was a gallant chase, but a vain one.
Well, they're everything you said they would be this side, Martin. They're young, they're keen, they're enthusiastic. They haven't stopped running and working and trying. An awful lot of sides would have done it 3-0 down at home, and so young. They've kept going at it and kept England on their toes.
Well, it's an England bench with plenty of room for the substitutes, and some new faces in the backroom staff, of course. Likes of Brian Robson and Don Howe and Mike Kelly. Gone, as well as Terry Venables, the physio Dave Butler as well. New full-time coaches John Gorman and Ray Clements. And just across from those Moldovan substitutes, Arsenal's Gary Lewin joining Alan Smith on the medical side. Curtianu. Testimitsanu. Rebeja. Popovic in the centre. Joined by Gajdamasjuk. Again, well, they're looking for a breathtaking goal, really, aren't they, to try and put the passes together and almost tiptoe their way through England. Well, signs that might have happened at 0-0, but not too much since. In the end, a high ball comes in. Sort that's been paying dividend for England all night, and then a bit of a miscue by Rebeja, but it's turned out to be a crossfield pass of some venom. Barmby, who got the nod over Ferdinand and Letitia. Great debate in the media corps as we waited for Glenn Hoddle's announcement, which came pretty late. And credit to the new head coach, because Barmby certainly played his part, and his goal changed the whole tone of the match. Suddenly, and surprising you might think, England Euro 96 semi-finalists, but they needed a shot in the arm, and it was a shot into the bottom corner from Nick Barmby that gave it them. "15 minutes left. And although there's been a call for the floodlights, they haven't come on, and in truth, there's no real need for them. And when a commentator says that, you know the visibility is pretty good. Pallister. And Gascoigne, having been out-sprinted, thought, I'm not having that, and got the ball back. Shearer touched it off towards Barmby. It was a bright idea. Here's Yapurianu. Kleschenko. Popovic coming in from the left-hand side. Kleschenko, who has 4 international goals to his name.
They must be belters then. Lights are on, Martin. They're just starting to flicker into life.
Well, in a country that's, well, by their own admission, is poor economically. When we landed, actually, on Friday in the dark, you could hardly see too many lights on in Kishinev centre itself, and very few at the airport, just enough to light the runway. So,
thankfully.
Here goes Beckham. The supplies, electricity supplies, I understand, come still from Moscow. There's strong tie-ups between Moldova and Russia from that Soviet bloc. They split up 5 years ago, and Russian, one of the 2 languages used by these home-based players. Some of the names with a definite Russian slant to them. Popovic. Trying to get the better of Hinchcliffe. It goes off the Everton man, and Moldova have a corner. And they're certainly lights to be proud of. Kleschenko takes the corner. Hinchcliffe first to it. Andy Hinchcliffe played for England at youth level and at under-21, but it just for a long time seemed that he wouldn't make the step up that so many anticipated for him into the senior side. Well, this has been his big day, a winning debut, and now Glenn Hoddle just deciding to freshen it. Signs of activity on the bench for the minutes that remain, about 11 of them. This is Popovic, still full of enthusiasm for Moldova, who have another corner. To play it in again, and you can praise the philosophy, but here they are with the ball back in their own half. I remember David Seaman conceding a goal for England direct from a corner. I think it was against Czechoslovakia, as they were then, and international about 4 years ago, but obviously Moldova's research doesn't go back that far. Sekou has a swing. And here's Gascoigne in plenty of room. Barmby. Ince. Now Gascoigne. Shearer. The slip was from Barmby. Beckham was there to help him. Barmby takes it on for Shearer. Well, the linesman put his flag up, and England were denied, and Moldova restarting the game quickly, still trying to get something from it as we move towards the last 10 minutes. And England wait to make what looks like a double change involving David Batty and Matt Le Tissier. So Paul Gascoigne is going off. There's no surprise in that. And both Batty and Le Tissier given the chance to restart their international careers. Nick Barmby is the other player to be replaced. Batty's participation in doubt because he's been suffering from a bruised instep that's interfered with his training with a ball. And someone who can do splendid things with a football is the second player introduced. Matt Le Tissier, 19 months after we last saw him play for England in a full international on that ill-fated night in Dublin, when so many things went wrong in terms of what happened with the spectators, but a lot went wrong for Le Tissier's international career as well. He was put out in the cold by Terry Venables. And now, by participating, incidentally, he's no longer qualified for France. His previous caps were all in friendlies. This ties him to England. And also one or two other home countries, I believe, were showing an interest as well. But it's definitely Matt Le Tissier of Southampton in England now. Testimitzanu, Curtianu, and again offside given. Now, Andy, you've seen Matt play a couple of times this season, and is he a little bit fortunate to have Glenn Hoddle's faith on the evidence of this season's work?
Oh, I think he knows that, but I think this is a great shot in the arm for him. For Glenn to come down and have said, go on then, Matt, have 10 minutes, try and get yourself involved, a couple of kicks to the ball. This is a reward, I think, ahead of schedule in many respects with his start to the season.
Well, David Batty came on as a substitute in Terry Venables' first match, and he's in at the start of a new regime again. Free kick to England taken by Le Tissier. Ince. Kleschenko. A little bit from behind from Gary Neville. On the Beja, free kick to Moldova. 7 minutes to go. The referee saw nothing wrong with that, and he was very close to the incident. Shearer was caught from behind from Nani, but England got the advantage. Le Tissier. Batty. Now Gary Neville. Shearer's gone towards the far post. Le Tissier even beyond him. England keeping it short with Ince and Batty. Now Pearce. Glenn Hoddle's players with the job all done except in name. Beckham. He's had a bit of teasing from his new international teammates about his, in quotes, wonder goal at Wimbledon.
He had a chance, actually, to just slide Gary Neville in. But England are just playing out the game now, Martin. They're more than happy with 3-0. I think if he'd have given them that before the game started, they would have taken it and gone home quite happy. Just going to keep the ball now, just pass it around, play time out. If another chance comes along, well and good and well, we might just take it. If it doesn't, then I think England will be quite happy to go away from here tonight with a 3-0 victory.
Popovic. Alistair had his arms very much down by his side. But it's another Moldovan corner. So what will their plan be this time? And played short between Ieporianu and Curtianu. Testimitzanu. Moldova switching the play from left to right. This is Beja. Sekou has a bit of dip on that, and Seaman showing that he's still alert. It bounced in that goal area where there was a bare patch or two, and Kleschenko, like a good attacker, was following in case there was a fumble. There was no fumble.
Yeah, good concentration. Bread and butter save normally, but this late in the game he's had very little to do, the goalkeeper. It was just all about concentration.
Batty. We're into the last 5 minutes. We're just at the outset of this World Cup adventure for England. With, of course, a massive festival of football in France in 2 years' time. 32 teams in the finals. Mitsanu. The referee has given a penalty against Pearce for handball. As he came across, he knocked the ball up with his boot onto an arm. And England's visit to Moldova, which was bearing fruit and certainly will yield 3 points, may end on something of a downer here. And it's amazing, really. Penalties conceded in Euro 96, penalty shootouts as well, and David Seaman is in the firing line once more with the ball on the penalty spot. A penalty for Moldova to be taken by Mitsanu, and he's missed it. So no unhappy ending.
Well, I think that's justice in many ways. I thought the decision was a harsh one. There's certainly no intent in my mind on Stuart Pearce when he came across, won the ball quite clearly and could only deflect it up onto his arm. Thought that was a little unlucky. I sometimes wonder, Martin, I'm sure that David Seaman's reputation as saving penalties has spread this far. I would be surprised if it hasn't. And sometimes that makes players just be too precise. And I wonder if Mitsanu was just trying to be too precise, knowing that he was facing one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Well, it hit the top of the post, and it stays at Moldova 0, England 3.
There's no doubt along the road that England will be tested far more severely than they have been tonight. But first game in, new manager, new regime, I think they'll be absolutely delighted, and so they should be, with the return on tonight's game. 3 goals, none at the moment conceded. Points in the bag. A winning start, let's go home. I think that's great. And then they can work from now.
One way or another, Stuart Pearce really seems to be involved again with penalties, doesn't he? Conceded that one against Switzerland. Seaman having to side-foot it away under challenge from Popovic. Curtianu's had a lot of touches on the ball, most of them a bit better than that late one in the game. We'd like to see him in better company. Beckham, who's very pleased to have got 90 minutes under his belt in this company. Batty, now Southgate. England primarily running down the clock, maybe a chance to play with a bit more purpose. Letitia would want to do that. Neville with again the type of ball that sits up on this pitch, which has been another factor that England have had to deal with. All right, the same for both sides, but Moldova used to performing on it. Not disheartened by it. Somehow now you look at the Premiership pitches and think that maybe the top players are really spoilt for the best they've ever been.
Of course they are.
Purianu to Curtianu. Rebeja. Well, that's a thoughtful ball. It just needed a bit more lift to get beyond Pearce. The run was from Gaida Maschuk in from the right-hand side. And he's been on patrol. There's a contest. The affair over midway through the first half when England scored twice in quick succession. Certainly after that, before the half-time interval, a succession of chances. A penalty appeal for Alan Shearer that 99 times out of 100 I think would have been given. Mitsanu. Popovic. That's played the ball. Purianu skillfully. Pass one. Rebeja. At times they're making it look like a billiard tabletop with the passing. And Klashchenko chasing in. Partido trying to unhinge England again. For the second half, England have concentrated for the most part to see it through. The third goal from Shearer, just to rubber stamp their superiority. And in a World Cup tie, 3-0 away from home, just to reiterate what Andy's been saying, is certainly a result to be pleased with.
I can bet your life that Martin, that Italy would take that when they come here. If you were to say to them, you want 3-0? They'll say, yes, please.
Well, they do come here in a month's time, and you'll see that game on Sky Sports as well. A few days before we turn our attention to England's first home match under Glenn Hoddle against Poland, a fixture in which England have traditionally done very well in the past. Partido. Ince made to hurry. This is Batty. Shearer pulling slightly to the right, England keeping it in midfield with Letizia. And Shearer stayed put in the end. Allowed a bit of space that Batty used. Gary Neville. We're in the 3rd minute of time added on. Letizia will want to use every available second to stake his claim. Well, it's over. It's a winning beginning for Glenn Hoddle. A substantial start to England's World Cup campaign, even though they survived a late penalty scare. Alan Shearer got the 3rd to embroider the wearing of the captain's armband for the first time. But Nick Barmby really with the crucial goal, the first one that got England up and running after 22 minutes, followed very shortly by Paul Gascoigne's second. An essential victory, and it's been achieved. The spirit of Euro 96 extended, I'm sure, with the result here, particularly given the tough rules regarding qualification. England's target to top this group. Moldova believe they are more than just make-weights in the group, and now Italy and Poland, the main England rivals, have to come here to Chisinau to match the English victory today. Final thought, Andy?
A very, very promising start to Glenn Hoddle's managerial career, Martin, a very positive one.